Welcome everyone to Spoiler Warning. I am your host, as always, Tom Colohue, and today we'll be breaking down the biggest news in wrestling, including plenty of exclusive news that you cannot find anywhere else. Our top stories today are going to be about plans going forward for John Cena, including the confirmation that Cena will face Solo Sikoa in Saudi Arabia. Try saying that 3 times fast. Becky Lynch running out of challengers in NXT. Meetings taking place between Randy Orton and WWE higher-ups. No plans, despite rumours that there was going to be a return for the Wyatt 6. No plans, and we'll talk more on why that's really quite annoying. The report from the Wrestling Observer that the WWE are currently trying to get money from different cities to host pay-per-views. You might expect that I'm going to have a lot to say about that, considering I reported this exact thing several months ago. Ric Flair and his arrival in AEW. Backlash and his position reportedly in Paris, in France. The launch of NXT Europe and how this ties into appearances in France and in Germany. We're also going to talk about my upcoming video on Sunday, Dave Meltzer versus The Rock. A live show that we're doing on Wednesday featuring my colleague Nick Barbati, and a little bit more about what's going on with watch parties at the moment. Spoiler alert on that one before we get to it, there will not be a watch party for Smackdown tonight. More to come on this one. So I want to say a quick hi to everyone who's already in the chat. Charlie, Brad, Roger, Zane, Joe, Ray, Daniela, JJ, Mick. I've said hi to all of you already, but I want to say a big hi to everyone for joining us. Bismo also. Before we got started, before the show went live, we were already at a point of more than 10 likes, which is fantastic. We now have 23. We did breach our record on Monday of 32 by 5 past. We reached 33. Can we go higher? Stuart says, evening all. KJ says, what's up, Tom? Welcome, KJ. Welcome, Bailey, as well. Zane says, Roman Reigns' next appearance won't be till the Royal Rumble. Oh, I don't know why you're bringing in from JD from NY headlines, mate. Like, I couldn't care less about that. Mark says, hey, everyone. Hope you in the chat have had a good week. Hope you all have a lovely weekend. Thank you, Mark. Welcome to the show. Charlie says, hello, Tom. How have you been doing? Doing pretty well, thank you. James says, hi Tom, what's the actual purpose of WWE announcing matches on Instagram or getting news companies to announce them? Essentially headline generators. It means that if you're following WWE on social media, you have to make sure to follow a lot of different areas. When it comes to media companies, usually they will pay for the privilege. Eric says, hi, how are you, Tom? Doing very well, thank you. Gordy says, what's up, Tom? What's up, Gordy? Leon says, hi, Tom. Hope you're doing well. Doing very well, thank you, Leon. Raymond says hello to Tom and everyone in chat. Thank you kindly, and hello to Raymond. Noob says hello Tom, how are you doing? Doing very well, Noob, thank you. Michael says hi Tom as well. Hello Michael. Jordan saying good evening Tom, good evening Jordan. Charlie says Crown Jewel next week, I'm excited for it. I am not. Eric says why aren't you doing a watch along tonight? Once again, I will be talking about that a little bit later, but spoiler warning on that one, there will not be a watch along for Smackdown tonight. As I say, more on that to come. I do want to be very transparent about this, but there are a few reasons that I'm not able to complete the watch party tonight. So our first piece of news is as regards plans for John Cena going forwards. John Cena will be facing Solo Sikoa, as first reported here, at Saudi Arabia in Crown Jewel. What this means is, it looks like the Solo Sikoa will be taking on John Cena and potentially picking up a big victory. This will be important going forwards for the Roman Reigns LA Knight match, where a full elimination of John Cena might be very valuable, considering that they're still planning to put together War Games. There is an outside possibility that John Cena will feature at War Games, but last I heard he will be wrapping up after his time in Saudi Arabia. But last I've reported was, of course, that he would be wrestling in Saudi Arabia, and here we are. As regards John Cena going forwards, there are no plans for him to be involved in the WWE in 2024, at least at this point, building into WrestleMania via Royal Rumble. John Cena is not believed to be particularly involved in the WWE after leaving this current run. Saudi Arabia is still believed to be the end of that, though it could be extended so that he can feature in War Games. Pete says, hey, big bad Tom, hope you're okay. Doing okay, thank you, Pete. Appreciate that. Next up is as regards Becky Lynch, and I can say that we're at 5 past, which is where we draw the line. We have 33 likes. One more before we get to 6 past breaks the record, and we currently have 55 people here, which means 22 have not clicked like. If you're able to, just one of you hit that like, we would break our record. Unfortunately, we did not do it today. Maybe next time, maybe Monday. Bismo says, any plans for Nick Aldis to wrestle in the future besides being a GM? Yes, there are. The intention is for him to be involved with at least Cody Rhodes. There is a match lined up there, but it'll be a little while before we get there. King Azza says, hey Tom, I want Roman to beat Cody at WrestleMania to make Cody more desperate to finish the story. I think at that point people might start to give up. Daniel says, yo Daniel, how are you? Dad says, Tom, who do you think wins on Collision tomorrow, Kenny or MJF? MJF, no question. Kenny Omega is not a legitimate challenger to MJF. It is hotshot booking. More on that later. So Becky Lynch, her time in NXT has now come to an end. However, what we've learned from Becky Lynch's time in NXT is that she's looking to wrestle with a wide variety of women currently lined up when it comes to the WWE Raw division. Becky Lynch versus Rhea Ripley still seems the most likely scenario to land on for WrestleMania, and that is something they've been planning for a number of months now, hence keeping the two apart. What this does mean is that even though Becky Lynch has run out of challenges for the NXT Women's Championship, she was able to put on the map quite a number of different people and give a lot of opportunities to those women. At this point, Becky Lynch will essentially go back to the Raw division where there are more people for her to work with. There are names such as Raquel Rodriguez at this point and Nia Jax, who recently returned. There is also an intention by Becky Lynch to challenge Shayna Baszler, and in many ways to ensure that as regards Shayna Baszler, Shayna gets her win back. Becky Lynch believes that she owes Shayna that much, and I expect that to be something that happens. Becky Lynch, as I previously reported, does have heavy involvement in the creative for women's wrestling on Monday Night Raw. She has mentioned to them that she wants to wrestle Shayna Baszler. I expect that to be put together. Zane says, this narrative is ridiculous and I've seen it more times than I care for in the last 10 minutes. Saturday's the perfect time. Saturday's the last show before MJF breaks Omega. Zane, are you on the right show? Because I have no idea what you're talking about. What narrative? And nobody has talked about it. There has been one question. So I don't know if right now you're actually watching someone else, but if you are, please remember who you're talking to and try a bit better. Michael, bringing in the source as well, says via Wrestling Observer, Will Ospreay is expected to sign with AEW when his New Japan deal expires. That is something that we spoke about on Monday, stating that Will Ospreay was expected to go to AEW because it did allow him to continue working in New Japan. Leon says, Fightful reports former WWE star Heath Slater is now a free agent and has left Impact. I have not been able to confirm this myself, but I don't doubt the report. Heath Slater, Heath Miller in Impact, did not really get the same attention that he did in the WWE, and the overall intention of Impact to use him was a bit unwavering. They weren't particularly keen when they got a few bigger names, and they are currently trying to cut costs and save money, let's just say, to bring in a big name. King Azza says, hey Tom, is it true Roman won't be back till Royal Rumble after Crown Jewel? That is a report from the Wrestling Observer. As far as I'm aware, we'll see what happens. Last I heard, he was working Saudi Arabia. I reported that, and I expected him to work Survivor Series. That seems unlikely at this point. Razar says, I really loved the work Becky was doing with the NXT title. It served as a kind of mid-card title for the division. Really interested to see what she does next. At the moment, she's not just looking to wrestle with women on Raw. To my knowledge, Becky Lynch has used that as an opportunity to say, well, if we had a mid-card title, I could be very, very useful in that position. As, let's be honest, could Bayley. Sai says, evening all, evening Sai. Bossman says it's TNA, sir. TNA, true. We do have to factor that in. Doopy Guy says, sup, happy early Halloween. Welcome, Doopy Guy. Nice to see you back. And happy early Halloween to you too. Halloween, of course, is on Tuesday. I will be serving chocolates and candies to the neighbourhood kids who come a-wandering. Most of them at this point are friends of my children. Next up then, Randy Orton has been in a number of meetings with higher-ups in WWE about the intended creative when he returns. Plans are for him to return in and around Survivor Series, either during the Survivor Series event or immediately afterwards. I've mentioned previously that there is a push, particularly from Randy Orton, to wrestle Gunther, and that is something that the WWE has, let's just say, heard. Triple H is very keen on the idea, though there are a couple of other things to be involved in. There was an intention when Randy Orton returned to have him pair back up with Matt Riddle. Naturally, that is not an option at this point in time, so we'll see what happens there. But Randy Orton has been involved in a number of meetings. To clarify, as Mick is not the only person to say they weren't entirely clear on what I said previously, Randy Orton has been cleared by his personal doctors. The WWE has started to pitch creative. There are a couple of hoops left to jump through before he's officially cleared by WWE, but they're expecting it to be merely a formality. So Randy Orton is pitching his own creative. There's a number of people he wants to work with, particularly people who have come from NXT recently. So I expect him to work with people such as Gunther. He wants to work with a Tommaso Ciampa, but now isn't the ideal time for that. And I do believe Randy Orton versus Drew McIntyre will be something that the WWE return to. We currently have 70 viewers and only the 45 likes. If you're able to, please remember to hit that thumbs up. It gets us up to 50. And if we can get to 50, you will see the chat numbers go up as well. It has a direct impact in, for example, our subscriber number and the amount of people watching. And that is the fastest way to ensure the growth of the channel. It's just good old-fashioned engagement, a high chat rate, and of course, lots of likes. We currently have 5,346 subscribers. Thank you to all of you for being a part of this, and hopefully as we continue, we get closer to full time. Bailey says, Becky did a great job elevating Lyra as a future main roster talent. Pardon me. I very much appreciate Becky Lynch's work as well. She's really helped to elevate the NXT women's division and basically just get more eyes onto them. Bossman says, how about the ratings? Do after the MJF match just an impressive drop? I don't focus too much on the ratings because I know overall MJF is the major draw right now in AEW. Ricky Fawn says, how are you, Tom? Good to see you. Good to see you too, Ricky. Nice to see you. Roger says, will Heath Slater return to WWE? Seems very unlikely at this point in time. Marcel says, hi Tom and chat, how are you doing? I'm doing very well, thank you. Pete said, just heard the news about tonight's watch-along. I can't watch SmackDown without my boy Tom. I'm sure you can. I'm sure you can manage it. There'll be more on that shortly. There is, for those who are members of the channel, currently a video in the members only section, which hopefully you guys have enjoyed. Please let me know if you watched it and enjoyed it. It is about the upcoming video of Dave Meltzer versus The Rock, clarifying the reporting that we've seen as regards the Wrestling Observer and The Rock. I did highlight a few things as regards my research process and also a particular element of the research that I'm going to be using for that article, the moment when the Wrestling Observer quoted the Wrestling Observer as a source when they were proven wrong. Just always think that's going to be a fun one to dive into. Mick says, very understandable clarification. Thanks, Tom. You're very welcome, Mick. I appreciate you checking in. Eric says, are you going to dress up for Halloween with your kids? I am not, because the girls are not with me. It is not a stepdad night. It is an actual family night. So I will not be doing that, unfortunately. Michael says, what are you dressing up for as for Halloween? I'm not. I'm unfortunately not. I will be handing out the chocolate, basically. Just handing out the chocolate. Leon says, yes, I did enjoy that video. Thank you, Leon. Appreciate that. Daz has not watched it yet. Well, hopefully you get a chance and hopefully you enjoy it as well. It's one of those videos that I look to sort of be the blueprint of what I do in the members only section. My intention, to make it as simple as possible, is to try and give a peek behind the curtain in the members only section. As we grow and as the membership numbers grow with that, my intention is that we can start doing members only Q&As, for example, and members only videos that really do detail how I get the news that I get and how I share it. my approach to wrestling journalism in general, and advice on people looking to start their own channels. I think that's something which could be very valuable going forwards. If there is other things that you want to see that would convince you to jump into the members only section, what is it that you would like that would convince you that it's worth checking it out? 23 Fresh says, Endeavour going to sell the WWE? Forever is a very long time and one day I'm sure they will, but why would they buy it and then immediately sell it? That seems silly. Bossman says, how do you source yourself? That is literally what they did. They sourced the Wrestling Observer for a report in the Wrestling Observer. They were proven wrong, but did not cite that they were the source of it. And for the rest of it, that is in the members only video. I don't want to spoil the lead, as it were. Eric says, good evening, Tom. How are you doing? Doing very well, Eric. Welcome to the show. Bob says, I haven't dressed up in a costume for years at Halloween. Yeah, I think that's a shame. I would love to dress up as something, but I think I'll end up just wearing my panda. Or maybe I'll get a new one. Maybe that's the next move. Thank you, Zane. Appreciate that. Dad says I might watch it tomorrow or Sunday, or I'm not busy, Tom. Also, I'm going to watch wrestling on the 18th next month. Hope you enjoy it, mate. KJ says, Tom, any reason why Cena has only worked SmackDown since coming back? NXT wants to. John Cena essentially was brought in to be a replacement for Roman Reigns while Roman Reigns took some time off to try and continue the growth of the ratings there and to keep people from switching off. 23 Fresh says, have you thought about streaming on Kick? I have. I've chosen not to. Eric says, do you feel like Triple H's reign of terror would have been better had he put Booker over that day? It would still be a reign of terror. It would just be someone else as a champion. I don't know. It really depends what happens after that as well. Bismo says, maybe, Tom, you could dress up for Halloween as Meltzer and go about reporting wrong info. I don't think anyone in my local town would get it. Yes, KJ, I clarified that. Bossman says, any news on what channel is getting Raw after the contracts are up? Not at this point in time. That's way above the contacts that I have. Bailey says, Tom, did the city of Berlin pay money to get its PLE, as other cities have done recently? Yes, they did. I'll be diving into that a lot more, but as you guys know, I've already been reporting on this one when it comes to Berlin, when it comes to Paris, when it comes to Australia. They are paying money to the WWE to get WWE and tourism into their city. I've reported this previously. It's nice to see that the Wrestling Observer are now catching up. Next up is a bit of a sensitive one, so I'm just going to read out my little script here that I've planned in advance. There have been reports, primarily from BWE, or Boozer, that there is a plan to bring the Wyatt Six back in tribute to Bray Wyatt. There has also been a report more recently from Boozer that there are no plans to bring the Wyatt Six back in a tribute to Bray Wyatt. I want to warn all of you in advance about outlets that do this. Outlets that report something is going to happen, get a load of headlines, and then also report that something is not going to happen. I need to be very clear on this. This is an extremely shady, questionable practice. There was never an intention for the Wyatt Six to appear on WWE TV. Now that Bray Wyatt is unfortunately no longer with us. It is a shady practice that takes advantage of a tragic situation. It is wrong on every level. And even if BWE was getting everything right, I wouldn't trust a word they say after that. Leon says you can't do a storyline about the man himself. R.I.P. Bray, which I 100% agree with. Joey says, hey Tom, is it true Endeavour is losing money from the WWE deal? Well, it really does depend. At the moment, no. They'll need to wait and see what money they get from the TV rights, but you do not expect to make immediate profit. That's not how companies work. That's not how business works. They have to essentially pay back the cost of buying it. And until they do that, they're not making any money. They've lost money. That's just pretty standard business. So they're not necessarily losing money. They do have to recoup their investment, and as yet they haven't, because it's going to take a little while longer yet. KJ says Boozer is getting annoying. He gave me faith about a Punk return. He goes back and forth on a Punk return every day. One day it's a yes and next day it's a no. I feel he's going for clicks. As I say, be aware of anyone that reports that something will happen and also reports that something will not happen. Second they do that, I'd have questions. Leon says, I've lost trust in BWE ever since that Velveteen Dream report, which was absolutely, categorically false. Marcel says, I hope WWE will come to the Netherlands. I just don't think so because it's not that popular here. No, but people would travel in. There's a reason they're going to Europe. I'll get to it. That's up next, but there's a reason they're going to Europe. Steve says, remember, Game 1 of the World Series tonight on Fox, leaving SmackDown to be on FS1 in the US. Thank you, Steve. Appreciate that. Brad says, I won't trust Ringside News after what their owner said on their personal account about Adam Cole. Also, they reported Triple H and Stephanie had broken up. I ain't aware that's happened. That's malicious, surely. Eric says, I can't wait to hear the pop Rhea is going to get in Australia. So next up, I reported previously that different countries and different cities are making bids for WWE content and WWE pay-per-views. It is a huge part of the continentalization approach that they are using in order to build the brand. They're essentially gaining additional money by leaving the US. They're also guaranteeing high ticket sales, not just in different countries, but in the US by being there more rarely. It is essentially creating a situation whereby it's going to be more difficult to get WWE tickets so they can ramp up the prices and make sure that they're making plenty of money from it. This is part of the WWE's plan to increase revenue. It's been Triple H's mission for a while. It's been William Regal's mission for a while. And Vince McMahon is still very much involved in it. Berlin and Paris are obviously part of this now. There is a report that Paris is going to get the Backlash pay-per-view. And this is just a continuation of this. I reported after AEW went to Wembley that the WWE wanted to book Wembley, but Wembley would have to pay them. As regards that, the City of London, particularly Mayor Sadiq Khan, would have to pay them. And now, in order to get the money that they're looking for, it's one of those situations whereby the WWE will make money either way. They're confident they can sell out Wembley, but even if they don't, they'll make plenty of money because Wembley will pay them for the privilege. The benefit to places like London, like Paris, is in tourism. Because if you bring in 40,000 people, for example, from around the world to see a show in Paris, Paris is suddenly going to be very, very busy. All the hotels are going to be able to jack up the prices. All of the bars and restaurants are going to be able to increase prices. London made a killing from AEW. Paris, Berlin, Australia, absolutely going to make plenty of money as well. This is part of that continentalization strategy. It also leans into NXT Europe because many of these events are going to be building into a soft launch for NXT Europe. These are being explored as host cities for NXT Europe, so wrestlers are likely to be featured on the card, who will also then be featured in the launch of NXT Europe. My expectation is that the first NXT Europe show will be main evented by Gunther as an Intercontinental Champion. That's something I expect is going to be happening. This will be happening all over Europe. This will be happening all over the world until we get to the point where only the big shows are happening in America, which will drive up ticket demand. It is a sound business strategy, and it is something that the WWE can do because they are a household name. AEW, hopefully, one day may be able to compete for this, but right now, it is not even close. Razar says BW was exposed as the one feeding news to Zero last year, so I wouldn't trust them. I was not aware of that, Razar. What I will say, and I've said this previously, if anyone here is able to, can you prove to me that BWE, Zero News, and let's say WrestleVotes, for example, are not all the same person? Because I promise you, none of you can. Can you prove to me that they're not all Louis Dangoor, formerly of Give Me Sport, currently of Give Me Sport? You can't. Because they hide. You don't know who they are. Nobody does. So when they get it wrong, they don't bother admitting it. They just hide. And then start all over again. Dad says, are they coming to the UK again, Tom? Yes, they are. As I mentioned previously, the UK deal involves roughly one show a year. There may be times when they go a little bit further and have two shows, but then they'll be missing one the next year. The WWE in the UK is going to be a yearly event going forward. I reported that the day after Clash at the Castle. Joey says, Boozer keeps getting promoted by Ringside News and other big Twitter accounts. Yep. That's how it works. The Twitter accounts that are big, but not necessarily trustworthy, all work together. Bossman says NXT Europe still a go. Yep, I've detailed some of the plans there. Daniela says, good evening, Tom. Hope there are good plans for KO on SmackDown. Hopefully it's a good show tonight. It was a bit last minute with KO. I'm waiting to see if they actually do have plans for him. Michael says you've been speaking about this continentalization for 2 or 3 years now. Thank you, Michael, for that clarification. That's a fair comment. It's one of those that I started mentioning a long time ago, back in the days of Clash at the Castle. Dane says, is WrestleVote's a good source? Yay and nay. They've definitely got some big things right, but they also reported that there'd be mass releases in July this year. There weren't. Joey says, do you see WWE doing more international PLEs every year? Yes. Yes, I do. Marcel hopes for Amsterdam one day. Roger says, will NXT Europe be on a TV channel or WWE Network? I don't know on that one. It really depends what they're able to make happen. Personally, I think it will still be a TNT Sports endeavour. Joey says, SRS reported Cleveland is a leading city for SummerSlam. Have you heard anything on this? I have not. That's not information that I typically get. Razar says, will NXT Europe be a weekly show? More on that when I have it. And Ricky said, is Bianca Belair still going heel, Tom? Yes, over time. Not immediately, but over time. Yo, Moxie, how you doing, mate? We have reached 52 likes and we have 66 people watching. 3 more gets us to 55. Lately, the likes have been going up to the 70s and the 80s when people are watching afterwards. I very much appreciate all of you for that. If it's your first time here, please consider subscribing and you can dive in and ask your questions just like everyone else already is. Ric Flair is in AEW. This was a decision made entirely by Tony Khan to bring in ratings. I don't see it succeeding. I don't have much more to say on that other than I don't see it succeeding. Moxie says, do you see Roman having a match at Survivor Series? I think it's possible, but Meltzer's reporting otherwise. Mark says, do you know if there's going to be a big UK show next year? Mentioned it already? Yes, there will be at least once a year a big show in the UK. Michael says, I really wish I could get away from the Flairs. All of them. Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, you're not wrong, boss man. You're absolutely not wrong on that one. It did not work out for them at all. Bailey says, if Ric Flair actually got in a ring again, his health is at risk. His health is at risk anyway. It really is. The man refuses to calm down. And hey, maybe that's what's keeping him young. Maybe it is. Sunday's video will be another deep dive on wrestling media. I'll be looking directly at the relationship between the Wrestling Observer and the views and the clicks it generates by creating news about The Rock. Even though it's been proven wrong repeatedly, they still keep going back to the well. I've got 3 years of reports, most of which comes directly from the Wrestling Observer itself. My intention, for those who haven't watched the members only video, is to go to the Wrestling Observer website, and there is a particular source that I'm using which details everything I need about the Wrestling Observer and their parasitic relationship with The Rock. Plenty to talk about there. That will be Sunday's video. I am going to be spending a bit of the channel's income on new editing software this weekend. I've mentioned it before and I have every intention of doing that. Editing software will come in tomorrow, so there will be a bit more tight editing on this particular video that's coming in about Wrestling Observer and The Rock. It'll allow me to take the pressure off a little bit, just take a quick deep breath during some of the videos as well. Just catching up. KJ says, Flair for ratings totally bombed. Worst number of the year. Yep. Dad says, was it for Sting's last match, Ric Flair, Tom? Maybe, but I don't see any benefit to it. Daniela says, who do you think should be the next challenger for the tag titles? Also, Gable on Raw said to Tozawa he's going to train him into a tag star. Imagine an Otis and Tozawa tag team. One of many efforts that the WWE and Triple H are making to renew and refresh the tag division. As regards next challenger for the tag titles, I'm really not sure. It looks like it'll be another rematch for Cody and Jay. John says NXT beat AEW in the ratings again. Great to see NXT doing well. Another thing that we discussed at length on Monday. KJ says as regards Ric Flair, they'll have him in a match. I bet. Joey says, do you see NXT beating AEW in the ratings again? Ric Flair is looking like a real draw. Ric Flair, to be fair, has only just arrived. Zane's going to be watching Impact Wrestling in Coventry on October 29th. He's very excited for it. Leon says, I thought Edge was a draw, but he isn't. Apparently not. Steve says, what you're saying is you're dressing up as sexual chocolate Mark Henry. Absolutely, I am not. Mick says, last week you spoke very quickly about a Big E return. Could you clarify how his status is right now? He's recovering very well. They are making some creative pitches for him. They believe he will return. He has not been cleared by anyone as of yet. He's still got a bit of recovering to do. Joey says, do you see EO facing Bianca at Crown Jewel, or will they save it for another PLE to build up the match more? It seems likely it'll be at Crown Jewel, but to be fair, they could also save that one for Survivor Series and keep it to a relatively low number of matches. No idea what you're saying there, Bossman. Eric says, oh boy, has Meltzer started his Roman versus Rock match campaign early. Yeah, kinda, but it's not early. This is the normal time. This is a normal time. John says, any news on a Kairi return? Yes. Pretty much. She has now finished out all of her required dates elsewhere. The WWE are now preparing storylines for her impending return. Once again, to my knowledge, she had not signed anything as of the beginning of this month. And Joey says, will these EU PLEs next year held to kickstart NXT Europe? Joey, I need you to rewind, because there is plenty of news on NXT Europe at about 20 minutes in. Okay? By all means, check that out. I can reiterate to some level, but I don't want to repeat the entire thing. KJ says, I like how AEW gets to use all these 50, 60-year-old guys and fans who used to crap on WWE for it, although it was never that high, allow it to happen in AEW. I like to think that there are very different fans across the two shows. Evening Eve, or Dan I should say, welcome to the show. Quick thing, Dan, that I did want to mention to you. I've been asked to potentially put together as one of my deep dive videos, a video on the impact of NXT UK on the independent wrestling scene in the UK. I'm starting to think you might be the ideal source for it. So if you don't mind, I may pick your brain a little bit on that in the days to come. Eric says, how do you think NXT can continue to do this good once all the main roster players go back? I don't think all the main roster players will go back. I think there'll be a consistent rotation. I think it's a good thing for everyone involved. Joey says, do you see WWE making a big play for Will Ospreay when his contract is up? As I mentioned on Monday, yes I do, but I don't see it working. I don't see it working. We will be live on Wednesday with Nick Barbati from PWTorch alongside me and Nick and Tom's Intercontinental Adventure for a preview of Crown Jewel. As you are already undoubtedly aware, I will not be hosting a watch party for Crown Jewel. I will not be watching Crown Jewel. I do not support the Saudi Arabia deal, and the little protest that I do is essentially refusing to watch the shows. I am a trade unionist, for those who don't know. I'm a trade unionist, and at times I've worked for a trade union that holds its conferences way down in the south of England. At these conferences, which are pretty big deals, for a pretty big conference and pretty big union, I have stood up and tried, desperately implored the union to lobby the active government of the UK to stop selling weaponry to Saudi Arabia, which is then being used to bomb Yemen. I cannot, in good conscience, still watch these Saudi Arabia shows when I've already stepped up to that plate and essentially begged and pleaded to lobby the government to stop selling weapons to Saudi Arabia. A large part of UK income actually comes from selling weapons to Saudi Arabia. It is a disgusting practice, and I really hope it ends with the general election next year. I don't know that it will, unfortunately. So we will not be hosting a watch party for any Saudi Arabia show. That includes the upcoming Crown Jewel. Joey says, according to BWE, who've been a bit of a theme today, they're going to be carrying cross vignettes tonight to build towards a big push. See, here's what I think. BWE tends to know things that are going to happen on that night's show. That's what they tend to get right. I'm wondering if, one, they have the similar source to, for example, Fightful, who get that information as well, or two, they have something like Fightful Select. So they read what's going to happen there and then immediately start posting it as their own news. They always get this stuff right. What I will say, Karrion Kross is not going to get a big push. Karrion Kross might get a push. Karrion Kross might get featured. As I previously mentioned, Triple H is trying to do whatever Triple H can do to protect a lot of people who came back to the WWE recently by getting them involved on TV a lot more often. That could very well involve Karrion Kross. But I have questions as to the reporting of Big Push. Brad says, I support you for not supporting WWE going to Saudi Arabia. Thank you, Brad. And Razar says, oh, wow, respect to you, Tom, for standing on what you believe. I appreciate that, Razar. I'm a stand up and shout as loud as I can person. I am a never go quietly person. I am a kick and scream until the end of your goddamn life person, and I will be until the end of time. That is what I plan to try and teach my children. That is what I plan to try and bring to this chat. You kick and you goddamn scream. Because if you're a good person, you never let bad people stop you. That's how it works. And as I mentioned earlier, there will not be a watch party for Smackdown tonight. I need to be fairly blunt here, guys. As I mentioned last week, I'm a little burnt out and I'm a little bit tired. And my plan last week was to just get some rest. However, there's been quite a bit of sickness in the family, so I wasn't able to get that rest. In no way am I blaming them. I am just fulfilling my duties, but I'm not quite getting the rest that I need at the moment. I cannot, in good conscience, be staying up until 3 in the morning when I'm absolutely exhausted. I know a lot of people get very excited for these watch parties. I know a lot of people enjoy them. I apologise if I'm letting you down, but I have to make the right choice by me and this channel, which means, unfortunately, we will not be hosting a Smackdown watch party tonight. I need a chance to refresh. And I need to look after my family. So, until we're all back on track, the Smackdown watch party might, unfortunately, have to pay the price. I will continue to create as much content on the channel and do what I can to have fun with that. Honestly, I really enjoy the watch parties. I'm not particularly happy to drop them like this, but I do need to look after myself a little bit. I'm not doing great right now. In a number of ways, I'm not doing great right now. So, some of you will have been here during some rougher times, and my brain is telling me at the moment to be very, very sad. I need to be aware of that and take action to stop it. So that's what I'm doing. Hopefully, everyone here supports that. If you don't, then I am going to kick you out. But thank you, all of you, for your continued support, respect, and friendship. Bailey says, take care of yourself first. Thank you, Bailey. Bossman says, take it easy, man. Thank you, Bossman. Dan says, as the guy who was the first wrestling promoter to sign an agreement with Equity, and you can imagine how well that went down in the scene. Brave man. I obviously fully support you doing what you're doing. Thank you. I very much appreciate that. You know I've got a lot of respect for you as well. Leon says, rest up, Tom. Sending my love. Eve Wrestling says, I do AEW pay-per-view watch-alongs if people want to join them. I don't do it for AEW TV, though, because damn, that's hard to get through these days. Well, maybe that's something we can sort out one time. We do have the ability on these shows to do raids. So maybe that's something me and you can work out, Dan. Some sort of working relationship that we get to share viewership a little bit. I can send people your way. You can send people mine, etc. And I don't know, we'll make it work. We'll make it work. Thank you as well for saying that. Marcel says, take care of yourself. Thank you, Marcel. Raymond says, hang in there, Tom. We all understand. Thank you, Raymond. John says, Tom never apologised. Take it from me. Your mental health should always come first. I appreciate that, Jordan. Absolutely love that. Thank you. Bossman says, take as much time as you need. Thanks kindly. Appreciate that. KJ says, man, I left for a second and come back to this. Hope you feel better, Tom. I just need a little time. Just need a little time, you know? I think that's all I need. Just a little time to rest my head a little bit, get myself back in the game. Spoiler warning, there's no pressure on spoiler warning. Spoiler warning will be here regularly because it's a 10 o'clock show. I can do that without really being too worried. Appreciate that, Daz. Appreciate that as well, KJ, and I may take that choice at some point. I appreciate you saying it. Mick says, get well soon, mate. Thank you, Mick. Sai says, don't apologise for your health. You wouldn't apologise for having a broken leg. Stay well. I might. That is something you know. Dan says, the Today I Learned YouTube channel literally did a video entitled something like, not sleeping is literally killing you. That was a wake-up call for me. Pardon the pun. It's a good pun. It's a good pun. Thank you. That's good advice as well. Sleep is genuinely a wonderful, wonderful thing. And I historically do not get enough of it. I'm a why am I still awake, it's 1:30 in the morning sort of guy, and I need to stop that. I'm getting older, and I need to start looking after myself better. Liam says, take care of yourself, Tom. Mental health is always top priority. Thank you very much. 456 says, send in love and prayers. You're the real champ here. Thank you. Appreciate that. I knew you'd get that, Dan. I knew you would get that. I believe it's beautiful south. From Hull, where I was born. Eric said, did you watch the World Cup? I did not. Stuart Ridley says, health and family first, Tom. The watch-alongs will still be around once you feel up to it again. Thank you, Stuart. Appreciate that. Oh, we seem to be having a few technical issues now. Apologies that we do seem to have a few technical issues. We are wrapping up at this point, but I don't want to miss any comments. I'm very appreciative of all of this. So apologies for that. Dog Knight says, hope you're okay, Tom. Have you tried a heavy duvet cover? I'm thinking of getting myself one. Good for sleep and anxiety. I have. I hated it. Absolutely hated it. Anxiety, not really something I suffer. Depression, yes. I had 25 years of depression, and then one day woke up, and as it turned out, I was scared that one day it was all going to be over, which is strange because it completely flipped. Before that, I was scared that it would continue, and then suddenly I wasn't anymore. It was a weird day. Eric says, get better, Tom. Thank you, Eric. John says, Tom, I lost a close family member to mental health. Thank you for being honest with how you're feeling. It's important for us all to talk. I agree. I absolutely agree. I've always been, for people who haven't been here too long, I've always been someone who is very open when I'm struggling. Many of you will not remember the Post-it. It's a silly little thing that I do as part of the OCD. I put a Post-it on the wall behind me, essentially saying, this is not the worst day of your life. You have survived worse than this. To remind myself. I don't hide from stuff like that. I want to try and set a bit of a positive example that I am at times struggling, and I own up to it, and I take a step away, and I come back fighting. I kick, and I scream, and I never go quietly, even when it comes to my own brain. But we've been live for 45 minutes. I'm going to wrap it up here. We've talked about John Cena, Becky Lynch, Randy Orton, the Wyatt 6 rumours, WWE Continentalization Strategy, NXT Europe, Ric Flair's return, and the upcoming video on Sunday. Until then, I look forward to seeing you all live on Monday in video form on Sunday. I've been Tom Colohue. You have been fantastic. And I'll see you all very soon.